"50 large, Joe. Just sign here." The slicked-back Italian grinned, all gold tooth and false generosity. Outside, Harlem simmered, unaware. Joe Louis, the brown bomber, heavyweight champ, was about to get KO'd by a 2-bit contract. But they didn't know Bumpy Johnson knew. Didn't know that word on the street travels faster than a right hook. The Italian saw a payday. Bumpy saw a legacy about to be tarnished. A slow smile crept across Bumpy's face as he pictured their faces when he walked in. Fools. They had no idea her quiet kindness would change everything. August 14th, 1940, Harlem, New York. Joe Louis was 26 years old and the most famous black man in America, the heavyweight champion of the world, the brown bomber, the man who'd knocked out Max Schmeling in front of 70,000 people and proved to the world that black excellence couldn't be denied. In the ring, Joe Louis was invincible. Outside the ring, he was a target. Because Joe had a problem that a lot of successful black men had in 1940. He was making money, but he didn't know how to keep it. Boxing purses came in fast. $100,000 for a title defense, but left faster. Taxes, family, hangers-on. Bad advice. Joe was getting rich and going broke at the same time, and the Italian mob saw an opportunity. On this August afternoon, Joe was sitting in a small office on 125th Street. Not a gym, not a training facility. Just a cramped room with peeling paint and a single desk. Across from him sat 3 men in expensive suits. Vincent Gallo, mid-50s, slick hair, the kind of smile that made promises it never intended to keep. Frank the Fixer, Marino, thick-necked, quiet, the muscle, pretending to be a businessman, and Anthony DiNapoli, younger, nervous energy, the one who did the actual paperwork. They weren't boxing promoters. They were investment advisors. On the desk between them sat a contract, 15 pages, small print, and a proposal that made Joe's eyes light up. The Cotton Club investment opportunity. "Joe," Gallo said, his voice smooth as honey, "you're making great money now. But what happens when you retire? When the punches stop coming, you need to think about your future." He slid a brochure across the desk. Glossy photos of the Cotton Club, Harlem's most famous nightclub, elegant, expensive, profitable. "We're expanding, opening 3 more locations, Harlem, the Bronx, Brooklyn. We need investors, smart investors, people who understand entertainment, who have name recognition." Frank leaned forward. "You put in $50,000, Joe. Within 2 years, we'll triple it. $150,000 guaranteed. Plus, you get a percentage of all 3 clubs. 10% ownership. Your name on the door. Joe Louis's Cotton Club." Can you imagine? Joe could imagine. He could see his name and lights. Could see himself walking into his own club. People cheering. Could see financial security for his mother, his family, his future. What Joe couldn't see was the trap. The contract was designed to look legitimate. It had official language, corporate structure, revenue projections. But buried in the fine print, page 11, section 7, subsection C, was the real deal. Joe's $50,000 would go into an investment pool controlled entirely by Gallo and his partners. The guaranteed returns were contingent on performance metrics that would never be met. The 10% ownership was in a shell company that didn't actually own the clubs, and if Joe tried to pull out, he'd owe them $100,000 in early withdrawal penalties. It was a classic mob scam. They'd done it to boxers, musicians, athletes, put their money in, never see it again, end up owing more than they started with. Joe Louis, genius in the ring, innocent outside it, didn't see any of this. "I don't know," Joe said slowly. $50,000 is a lot of money. That's almost everything I got saved. Maybe I should talk to my manager. Your manager doesn't understand investment. Dinopoly cut in quickly. This is high-level business. You need specialists, people who know Harlem, who know nightclubs, who know how to make money work. Plus, Gallo added, this opportunity closes tomorrow. We got other investors lined up. Sugar Ray Robinson, some musicians. You walk away now. That's it. Gone. It was a lie. There were no other investors. This trap was built specifically for Joe Louis. Joe reached for the pen. That's when the door opened. Bumpy Johnson didn't knock, didn't announce himself, just walked in like he owned the place, which in every way that mattered, he did. At 35 years old, Bumpy was Harlem's undisputed king. 3 years out of singing, he'd taken over the numbers racket, established his protection network, and made it clear to every Italian gangster in New York, Harlem was his. He was wearing a charcoal 3-piece suit, white shirt, black tie, and in his waistband, the straight razor that had carved his reputation into Harlem streets. Bumpy's eyes moved from Joe Louis, pen in hand, to the 3 Italians. His face didn't change, didn't need to. Joe, Bumpy said calmly, put the pen down. Joe looked up, confused. Bumpy, I'm in a meeting. I know what you're in. Put the pen down. Joe set the pen on the desk. Gallo forced a smile. Mr. Johnson, this is a private business meeting. We're discussing, I know what you're discussing. You're discussing how to steal $50,000 from Joe Louis while making him think it's an investment. He walked to the desk, picked up the contract, and began flipping through it, not reading every word. He didn't need to. He'd seen this scam before. Different names, same trap. Bumpy tossed the contract back on the desk. The Cotton Club investment opportunity. He looked at Gallo. That's creative. I'll give you that. Make a man feel like he's buying into something prestigious, something that'll have his name on it. He turned to Joe. Joe, let me ask you something. You ever been inside the Cotton Club? Joe shook his head. No, they don't. He stopped, realized what he was about to say. They don't let black people in, Bumpy finished. Not as customers, only as performers. And you're telling me these 3 want to make you a partner in a club that won't even let you through the front door? Joe's face changed. The excitement drained away. Gallo tried to recover. That's the old Cotton Club. The new locations will be integrated. Bumpy's voice cut like his razor. There is no expansion. There are no new locations. There's just a fake investment scheme designed to rob Joe Louis blind. He picked up the contract again, flipped to page 11, section 7, subsection C, investment pool subject to partner discretion. Translation, we take your money and do whatever we want with it. Performance-based returns. Translation, you'll never see a dime. Early withdrawal penalty. Translation, if you try to get your money back, you'll owe us double. Bumpy looked at the 3 men. This isn't an investment. It's a trap. And you 3 walked into Harlem thinking Joe Louis was stupid enough to fall for it. Frank Marino's jaw tightened. Look, Johnson, we're legitimate businessmen. We're offering a real opportunity. Bumpy pulled out his razor. Not fast, not threatening, just slow, deliberate. He placed it on the desk, still sheathed, right next to the glossy Cotton Club brochure. The room went silent. Let me tell you what's legitimate, Bumpy said quietly. Joe Louis is Harlem's champion. 2 years ago, he knocked out Hitler's favorite fighter and made every black person in America stand taller. He's not just a boxer. He's a symbol. He looked each man in the eyes. And you 3 walked in here thinking you could turn him into your victim. DePoli tried to speak. We're just offering business. You're offering theft with paperwork. Bumpy pulled the razor from its sheath. The blade caught the light. Here's my counteroffer. You tear up that contract right now in front of me. Then you walk out of Harlem and never approach Joe Louis again. Not with investments, not with opportunities, not even to say hello. Gallo's composure cracked. We have connections. We work with people. I don't care who you work with. In Harlem, I am the connection, and Joe Louis is under my protection. He held up the razor. You know what this is for? It's not for cutting paper. It's for cutting people who forget where they are. People who think they can walk into my neighborhood and rob my people. His voice dropped to a whisper. So here's what happens next. Either you tear up that contract, or I use this razor to carve thief on your foreheads. Then I make sure every gangster, every businessman, every hustler from here to Chicago knows you tried to steal from Joe Louis. He let that sink in. You'll never work again. Nobody will trust you. And every time you look in the mirror, you'll see the word I carved into your face, reminding you of the day you tried to with Harlem's champion. A dark stain spread across DePaule's pants. Frank's hands were shaking. Gallo had gone pale. We'll tear it up, Gallo stammered. We'll tear it up right now. Smart choice. Bumpy watched as Gallo picked up the contract with trembling hands and began writing page by page. 15 pages reduced to confetti. When it was done, Bumpy turned to Joe. Joe, these gentlemen are leaving. You're coming with me. Outside on 125th Street, Joe Louis finally found his voice. Bumpy, how did you know? How did you even know I was there? Word travels in Harlem, Bumpy said. Someone saw you going into that office with 3 Italians in suits. That got back to me in about 10 minutes. They walked down the street, Bumpy's presence causing people to nod respectfully to step aside. I almost signed it, Joe said quietly. I thought it was real. I thought I was being smart, investing in my future. Bumpy stopped walking. Joe, you're the best fighter in the world. But the world outside the ring is more dangerous than anything you face inside it. There are more men trying to rob you with contracts than there are trying to knock you out with punches. He put his hand on Joe's shoulder. You want to invest? Fine. But you get your own lawyer, not theirs. Someone who works for you, who reads every word, who tells you the truth. You don't sign anything unless you understand every sentence. And if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Joe finished. Exactly. Bumpy started walking again. And Joe, remember something. You're not just Joe Louis the boxer. You're Joe Louis the symbol. Every black kid in America looks at you and sees possibility. That means you have a responsibility to stay smart, stay free, stay in control. Joe nodded. Why'd you help me, Bumpy? You didn't have to. Yes, I did. Because when you knocked out Schmeling, I felt it too. When you stand in that ring representing us, you're representing me, and I protect what's mine. Bumpy smiled slightly. Besides, Joe, I'm a criminal. I break laws. I hurt people. I do things most men won't do. But you know what I don't do? I don't steal from my own. I don't trap heroes. I don't turn symbols into victims. He looked at Joe. Those 3 Italians, they're worse than I'll ever be, because at least I'm honest about what I am. Vincent Gallo, Frank Marino, and Anthony DiNapoli left Harlem that afternoon and never returned. Word spread through New York's underworld. Joe Louis was untouchable. Bumpy Johnson had drawn a line. Joe Louis went on to defend his heavyweight title 25 times over the next decade. He made millions. And yes, he had financial troubles later in life. Bad investments, the IRS, the problems that plagued many athletes. But he never fell for a scam again. Because Bumpy Johnson had taught him to read the fine print. Years later, in 1962, a reporter asked Joe, "You had a long career. Lot of people tried to take advantage of you. How do you stay smart?" Joe smiled. I had a friend who looked out for me when I didn't even know I needed looking out for. Who was this friend? If you're from Harlem, you know his name. If you're not, it doesn't matter. What matters is he taught me that being strong in the ring isn't enough. You got to be smart outside too. In 1981, Joe Louis died. At his funeral, a letter was found, written years earlier, meant to be opened after his death, to Bumpy Johnson. "You saved me from thieves in suits. You taught me that not every smile is friendly, and not every opportunity is real. You showed me that strength isn't just about hitting. It's about knowing when to walk away. I never properly thanked you, so I'm thanking you now. You weren't just the king of Harlem. You were my protector, and I owed you everything." Bumpy never saw that letter. He died in 1968. But the people who knew both men understood what that August day in 1940 was really about. It wasn't about a contract. It wasn't about $50,000. It was about a principle. Harlem protects its own. Heroes don't get robbed on our watch. And anyone who tries learns the hard way, one razor cut at a time. If this story of protection, wisdom, and power moved you, hit that subscribe button and smash that like. Share this with someone who needs to understand that the biggest threats don't come from fists. They come from contracts and fake promises. Drop a comment. Have you ever almost fallen for something that seemed too good to be true? Let's keep these untold stories alive. Bumpy Johnson protected Harlem's legends, and their stories deserve to be